The wind, a powerful, invisible force. It reshapes landscapes, destroys buildings, and wrecks lives. In a single day, a severe storm can cause over $10 billion of damage. And when violent winds rip through a city, they can kill dozens of people and seriously injure hundreds. Naked Science looks at the deadliest winds on Earth. Within massive carpet-bombing hurricanes and violent surgical strike tornadoes, we meet the people who risk their lives to warn us of the storms.
Major damage at the airport. I repeat, major damage at the airport. It's leveled entire buildings.
We discover just how fast a wind a person can take.
Oh, there's another one in front of us.
And join the scientists in the front line to discover the latest weapons in the battle against these deadly winds. We want to know, what can we do when angry skies strike? Friday the 13th, August 2004. Hurricane Charlie is predicted to hit West Florida in 8 hours. Hundreds of thousands of people shutter up their windows, and 1.5 million leave the area. But one person heads in the wrong direction. Mike Tice is a professional storm chaser. He gets his highs from high winds. He's filmed many hurricanes and tornadoes, and he knows Charlie is going to be big. This is the storm he has waited for all his life.
There's the eye.
Tice took shelter near a gas station.
The storm actually deepened very fast and became a Category 4 hurricane, and the winds were just unbelievable.
Within 10 minutes, the gas station was no more. Tice had achieved his ambition. Charlie's winds reached speeds up to 145 miles per hour.
That has to be the wildest thing I've ever went through in my life. Holy cow.
I've been wanting to experience something like that firsthand since I was a little kid, and I finally did.
Tice's footage is terrifying evidence of just how dangerous the wind can be. Hurricane Charlie left more than 25 people dead, made tens of thousands homeless, and caused up to $15 billion of damage. There is a simple law of weather. The faster the wind blows, the more dangerous it can be. The winds in Hurricane Charlie peaked at 145 miles per hour. But is this the worst the winds can get? One place to find out is here. The wind on Mount Washington in New Hampshire exceeds hurricane speeds on over 100 days a year. According to the Guinness Book of Records, this is the world's windiest place. The mountain's observatory is staffed by meteorologists year-round. The scientists make light of the mountain's reputation. They even serve up the world's windiest breakfast. On this spring day, the wind reaches 35 miles per hour, only 1/4 the speed of Hurricane Charlie. But the winds here can get much, much stronger. Ken Rancourt is the Director of Research at Mount Washington Observatory. A big part of his job is measuring extremely fast winds.
We go from the calm summer winds of 5 or 10 miles an hour to the winter winds of peak gusts of 180, 190 miles an hour.
But Rancourt has a long way to go to match the wind speed measured back in 1934.
One thing Mount Washington is known for is the world record wind.
On a spring day, a few meteorologists alone in a hut on the summit recorded one of the great moments in weather science. An anemometer on the roof was linked to a sounding device inside the hut. At 1:21 p.m. on 12th, it went wild. The meteorologists on duty timed the clicks and calculated the wind speed.
1.75, 1.43, 1.42, 1.23.
It came to 231 miles per hour, a gust they recorded in their log, and which blew them away with astonishment.
231 miles an hour. Will they believe it, was our first thought.
This terrifying gust was nearly 100 miles per hour faster than the winds in Hurricane Charlie. It was the fastest wind ever measured by a weather station, a record still held today. On the scale of hurricane winds, it would be at the top of the range, a Category 5. Hurricane Charlie was devastating, but it was only a Category 4. To find out how strong a wind a human being can handle, we've come to a wind tunnel at the University of Washington in Seattle. Lou Beck, a man who is either brave or foolish, has volunteered to be our guinea pig.
I've heard a lot of stories about how he can't breathe, so we'll see how it goes.
Beck should be nervous. All he has for protection are a pair of goggles and a safety harness. If he gets into trouble, the fan can be cut off from a control room nearby.
I suspect as the wind speed starts coming up higher, I'm going to be feeling a lot more force. Already it's getting very strong. Right now it's putting quite a bit of force on me, really pushing me into my harness. Quite fun though. Feels like being on a really fast roller coaster. I feel like I am comfortable going a little bit faster.
At 74 miles an hour, the wind reaches hurricane speeds. At 80 miles an hour, Beck can no longer stand unsupported. Without the safety harness, he would be blown off his feet. At 90 miles an hour, Beck gives up. He hasn't even reached a Category 2 hurricane. But Beck is determined to try again. At high wind speeds, small particles in the air can cause serious injuries. Beck wears a crash helmet to protect his head and eyes. At 96 miles per hour, the wind reaches the speed of a Category 2 hurricane, fast enough to cause moderate damage to buildings. At 111 miles per hour, it becomes a Category 3. The wind speeds Beck is now experiencing could destroy a mobile home.
Giving them the signal to go up to 120.
120 miles per hour. This is the typical free fall speed of a skydiver. 131 miles an hour. Beck is now experiencing the force of a Category 4 hurricane.
Woo! This is fast! This is really ripping!
This is the wind speed of Hurricane Charlie. At 155 miles per hour, the wind reaches the speed of a Category 5 hurricane. It's now fast enough to tear the roofs off houses and blow down most trees. Just keeping his position in this wind is taking all Beck's effort. Finally, the wind peaks at an astonishing 161 miles per hour. The pounding on his body is exhausting. Unable to take any more, he cuts the fan. The result of our test shows that you could survive a Category 5 hurricane as long as you wore protective clothing, were tethered by a safety harness, and weren't hit by flying debris. In nature, wind is a far more terrifying force. It is at its most frightening when it strikes in the form of a tornado.
Oh my God! Did you see that?
Twisters are deadly, unpredictable, missile-firing monsters. In our quest to discover what we can do to save ourselves when they descend from the angry skies, Naked Science needs to know what sort of early warning we have when twisters strike.
Herb, we gotta go!
Next on Naked Science, multiple tornado strikes.
Oh yeah, classic tornado in progress again.
And storm chasers running for their lives.
Oh, there's another one in front of us.
Another tornado right here in our radar.
The wind is an invisible enemy. It destroys buildings, flattens cities, and takes lives. So far on Naked Science, we have looked at hurricanes, giant storms that, like slow-moving carpet bombers, devastate vast areas of land. But there is a wind that wreaks its destruction in a tightly focused surgical strike. Tornado winds are so violent that they destroy all normal measuring equipment. How fast they blow baffled scientists for years. To find out, they have had to resort to some extreme measures. In 1842, Elias Loomis, a professor at Western Reserve College in Ohio, noticed that chickens caught in tornadoes had their feathers plucked out by the wind. This spurred him into devising an experiment to find the wind speed that caused this. He decided to recreate the conditions of a tornado using a cannon. His idea was to fire a chicken into the air fast enough to remove its feathers. Simple ballistics would then allow him to calculate its speed. He concluded that the chicken was blown through the air at a speed of 341 miles per hour. To find out just how fast winds and tornadoes really are, Naked Science traveled to Norman in Oklahoma. In May, research vehicles gather here, ready for the tornado season. We join up with one of the United States' leading weather researchers, Professor Josh Werman. He hopes the data he and his team collect will improve the forecasting of tornadoes.
By understanding the tornadoes better, we can lead to better forecasts. And if the forecast can be made just 5 or 10 minutes better, people have more time to get to shelter.
Werman uses Doppler radar to measure the speed of the winds inside tornadoes. Today, a storm is forecast 150 miles north of here in southern Kansas. So, can Werman find us a twister and measure just how fast tornado winds really blow?
Herb, can we go?
Knowing the conditions likely to cause tornadoes helps Werman track them down. When warm, moist air exists under much cooler air, thunderstorms can form. If they form below strong winds near the jet stream, they can start to spin and are called supercells. When conditions are right, these supercells can create tornadoes. The challenge facing forecasters is that only 1 in 5 or 6 supercells breeds tornadoes. Which ones do depends on the amounts of moisture, instability, lift, and wind shear in the atmosphere. Werman and his team are now 30 miles away from the developing storm. To get detailed information of the wind speeds inside a supercell and the tornadoes it spawns, Werman has to get in close, typically within a few miles of the tornado. The team uses 2 trucks, which, like a pair of eyes, enable them to study the storm in 3 dimensions. Just to the west of Attica, southern Kansas, the skies darken. The storm has already produced a tornado.
There it is.
Down 2, down 3.
Ooh, look at it. It's a beautiful rope.
Oh, look now.
The 2 trucks race to get ahead of the tornado to set up and take readings. This one is small, an F0. Tornadoes are rated by the amount of damage they cause. At the bottom of the scale, an F0 will damage signs and trees. Toward the middle of the scale, an F2 tornado will tear roofs off houses. Near the top of the scale, an F4 tornado is devastating. It will level a well-constructed house. At the top of the scale is an F5. It can sweep away a building and hurl cars through the air. Just as Werman and the team draw alongside their tornado, it starts to die.
What?
The radar indicates that another tornado is forming.
Boy, this storm has everything.
Storm chasing is a game of cat and
Wait, we're
mouse.
pointing. Let's pull off.
Pull off here.
Right in front of that car. There. Yes, and figure we're going to do Doppler to the north side.
Gosh.
The Doppler radar sends out radio waves, which reflect off drops of rain and other debris in the tornado. By measuring the timing of the reflected waves, the computer calculates the wind speed. Seen here at 8 times normal speed, the research camera captures the awesome sight of the tornado developing. This tornado appears to be at least an F2. The winds are strong enough to snap trees and tear the roof off a building.
See it? See the debris?
As the tornado passes through Attica, it hits a house.
The house is coming apart. Oh my God! Did you see that? The whole house came apart.
The team hopes their research will give earlier warning times to help avoid such disasters. Werman only has minutes to collect the data he needs from the tornado.
That's as I was afraid of. New action areas probably developing to our east-southeast. Sorry, south-southeast. Right here.
Suddenly, one of the teams spots another tornado forming.
Herb, we gotta go!
The race is on to get the trucks into position to survey the new storm.
To our east-southeast. All right, let's just keep an eye out there.
Thanks for down to have gotten their lap laundry done. I haven't gotten it. Go. Okay.
They put their foot on the gas to get safely past the twister.
1.6, 3.2 kilometers away from us to our southeast.
Oh yeah, classic tornado in progress again. Oh, there's another one in front of us.
Another tornado right here.
I don't know if we can safely go south. I think we should go north.
Go ahead, Red 2. Sure. Where's Dow 2 now? Wow, that is really close. Oh my God.
Even though they are racing to avoid the twister, they still want to collect their data.
Okay, that one has a wind of approximately 60 meters per second.
Ground relative?
That's 134 miles per hour. Werman stops the truck to start recording data.
Immediately to our south, yeah.
We're watching this big dusty one die off here. The next tornado action could be right out here off to our east. Right now we're just scanning back. Oh, he's changed the scan. He's going back east. We gotta get in.
This supercell thunderstorm is now spawning tornadoes at the rate of roughly 1 every 15 minutes.
Look down here, the tornado's just crossing the road right now, just on the other side of the road.
From the KFDI Weather Center, this is a tornado warning.
As darkness descends, the tornadoes become invisible to the naked eye. This is a storm spotter's nightmare. The radar is the only way they can see the unpredictable monsters spawning around them.
Hey Josh,
What?
look what's coming up behind us.
Oh.
Intensity is, we're gauging at least wind speed wise
F3.
on the borderline between F2 and F3.
It's an F3 intensity. Oh, wow. What's that out there?
Okay.
This is the big deal. This is the
Oh
big
my
guy.
God. Yep. We definitely saw some ground relative wind speeds around 80 meters per second.
That's 179 miles per hour.
I can tell you what our situation is.
How's it doing, Josh? Still up there.
Yeah, 85 meters per second in the last week.
93 is F4.
That's 3.6 kilometers to our northeast, so it's getting stronger.
Do you think you had peak surface winds over 100? Josh does believe peak surface winds are in excess of 100 meters per second.
That's more than 220 miles per hour. In the darkness, a devastating F4 tornado is tearing across fields less than 2 miles away, destroying a farmstead.
And you might want to call the Weather Service office. This tornado is definitely in the very strong category now.
City's office.
It's time to get out of the area, fast. The tornado is causing damage, but luckily no one has been killed. At midnight, the team rendezvous in a coffee shop. The supercell storms today produced about a dozen tornadoes, some of them with extremely violent winds.
One of the tornadoes had winds well over 200 miles an hour. It was a F4 strength tornado at least.
Werman's team recorded winds today of around 221 miles per hour. But this is well short of his record. A few years earlier, he logged the fastest tornado winds ever recorded. On May 3rd, 1999, a giant storm descended on Oklahoma City.
We measured wind speeds as high as 301 miles an hour. The 301 miles an hour represents the highest that's ever been measured, and clearly a devastating wind speed for any kind of normal home structure.
Some 60 tornadoes were recorded in Oklahoma that day. The winds killed over 35 people, and the damage was estimated at over $1 billion. Next up on Naked Science, we meet the people in the front line of tornado defense and see what happens when an F5 twister strikes a major city.
I have total devastation.
So far on Naked Science, we've seen that tornado winds can reach speeds of over 300 miles per hour. Most twisters hit the countryside. There's so much of it. But just occasionally, one strikes a major city. When that happens, we want to know, what is our front line of defense to keep people out of harm's way? Oklahoma, May 3rd, 1999. Before the day is out, some 60 tornadoes hit the state, killing over 35 people. Jeff Petrowski is a highly regarded storm chaser. He witnessed the first tornado touchdown.
There it is. Everything was very fast that day. It started rotating, and I called the first rotation in just north of Lawton. Within about 30 seconds later, they had a tornado warning out, and within about another minute, it started producing a tornado. Eastern, just northwest 12. It's coming through another subdivision.
In the Oklahoma outbreak, Petrowski played a vital role in saving lives.
I'm a ham radio operator, so I was in constant communication with Norman Weather Service.
Petrowski's call was picked up by the weather office in Norman. They issued a tornado warning to the media and the public.
Once you get that warning, it's critical that you act very quickly because you may only have minutes or sometimes even seconds before the tornado strikes.
Get below ground.
The Weather Service quickly relayed the warning to local television stations. The media then warned the public in the path of the tornado.
The red light.
At Oklahoma City's Channel 9, meteorologist Gary England was shocked by the power of the storm.
Tornado, get below ground.
Each time it cycled, so to speak, it produced a larger tornado and a stronger tornado.
Oh my God. Stovepipe.
As the tornado plowed toward Oklahoma City, Petrowski risked his life to track it. He continued to radio its position to the Weather Service.
Major damage at the airport. I repeat, major damage at the airport. It's leveled the entire building.
And only spotters can tell us absolutely 100% for sure that we have a tornado occurring.
Intersection, quarter-mile wide. It is doing major damage to my southwest.
I had the ham radio talking to Norman National Weather Service in constant communication of almost a play-by-play of what intersection, what town was next, who was in the path, and what I was witnessing as the tornado was evolving.
At 29th and Center, I have total devastation. Crossing eastern right now. Stand by.
Petrowski followed the tornado into the town of Moore. He was now experiencing what seemed like the end of the world.
The ground was vibrating. My van was literally shaking. I could feel the vibration in my body. I rolled down the window. Everything on that block was gone. There was factories, buildings, trees. It was an industrial park area. And as I looked north on that road, everything was gone.
Hello? Can you hear me?
The next day, the residents of Oklahoma City were left to pick up the pieces. The tornado had torn a 19-mile path of destruction through the area.
Chris, does he live in a house around here? Right here. Right here, okay. I don't know if they were home or not. Okay. Jackie! Chris!
Anyone back here?
36 people had died. Some 700 were injured, and over 2,000 left homeless. But if it hadn't been for the weather warnings, more lives would have been lost. In recognition of Petrowski's skill in tracking the tornado and saving lives, the Weather Service gave him an award.
I didn't realize I was going to film and witness the strongest tornado ever on the planet, strongest winds ever measured on planet Earth, also the most destructive tornado in U.S. history as far as dollar damage. And it literally was 2 or 3 weeks later before I could actually cope with coming back down and seeing all the destruction. I actually stayed away from the damage area for about 3 weeks and didn't want to talk to anybody about it because it was so overwhelming.
Oklahoma showed that close liaison between spotters on the ground and meteorologists is one of the best weapons in the war against deadly winds.
We have thousands of storm spotters just here in our area alone. Really is the first line of defense against severe weather.
The winds in Oklahoma City that day reached over 300 miles an hour. But the wind doesn't have to be that strong to create serious damage. Much slower winds can wreck buildings and fill the air with flying debris, missiles that can kill. In Lubbock at Texas Tech University, researchers have brought in a C-130 Hercules to act as an outdoor wind machine. They want to see how fast the wind has to be before it damages this building. At 70 miles per hour, shingles start flying off. At 100 miles per hour, part of the roof blows away. Now damaged, the house feeds the wind with a steady supply of flying objects. Once in the air, the wind turns this debris into life-threatening projectiles. When a tornado hits a populated area, flying missiles cause most of the casualties.
Oh, God. There's 3 babies.
Next up on Naked Science, we put you at the center of the maelstrom. We see what happens when missiles bombard a house. And meet a woman who was hit by one and lived to tell the story. This is the day after the 1999 Oklahoma City tornado. People scour the ruins for survivors, their task made more difficult by the acres of debris that cover the ground. When a big tornado strikes, it shoots out debris at such high speeds that even people who take refuge in their homes can be in mortal danger. So how strong does a house have to be to withstand a tornado? If Godzilla owned a BB gun, it would look like this. A 30-gallon tank of compressed air that can fire anything from bricks to steel posts at up to 100 miles an hour. At Texas Tech Wind Research Facility in Lubbock, a group of researchers test house walls to see how well they stand up to flying debris. They're testing what happens in winds you'll find in F3 to F5 tornadoes. Chad Morris is the Associate Director of the Wind Science and Engineering Research Center. He's crusading for stronger walls to protect people from the debris thrown by tornadoes.
At 250 miles per hour, those winds will move a piece of 15-pound debris at about 100 miles per hour. So we're launching the debris here today, or the missiles, at 100 miles per hour.
First up is a wall found in many U.S. homes.
This particular target is a vinyl-cladded wall section where we have vinyl sheathing, an inner layer of OSB on a 2x4 stud system.
Today's test missile is a regular plank of 2x4, a common projectile in tornadoes.
Clear. 3, 2, 1.
Over 5 million people live in houses built of this type of material. In a strong tornado, this wall might as well not be there. Next up is a wall found in nearly 8 million homes.
We have an exterior layer of brick veneer, followed by an interior layer of sheathing, attached to a 2x4 stud wall system. 2, 1.
Although this wall slows down the missile, you could still end up in the hospital. However, if you really want to protect yourself from tornadoes, you need a storm shelter built of this.
You have approximately 3.5 to 4 inches of 3,000 PSI or greater concrete with number 4 or half-inch rebar. This gives us the mass that we need to be able to stop the missile as traveling at 100 miles an hour. Clear. 3, 2, 1. 1.
When the big bad wolf comes a-blowing, this will do the trick. But what happens if you don't have this protection and a tornado comes your way? Julie Rakestraw lives in Moore, Oklahoma. In May 1999, she heard the tornado warnings and took shelter with her daughter in a closet in the middle of her house.
I was sitting in the closet, and then all of a sudden, I was looking down the street and I'm thinking, yeah, this is not good.
One of the tornadoes to hit Oklahoma that day had destroyed Julie's home. Moreover, it drove this piece of wood into her head.
I didn't know that there was a board in my head. And the paramedic, when we were friends, and the first thing he said when he came up to me is, "Oh, you know that's bad when a paramedic says something like that."
The paramedic used bandages to stabilize the board and then rushed Julie to the hospital. Dr. Chris Carey was one of the surgeons who treated Julie.
We were trained also not to be shocked by things going on, but did take me aside a little bit to look at that.
The medical team became carpenters.
The first part was actually to cut this big piece hanging outside away from that, so basically cut off the skin. We didn't have any utensils to do that, and so we kind of improvised by sterilizing a saw that the maintenance people had to cut that off at that stage.
It went through my ear, through my throat and into my collarbone. And luckily that board actually saved my life, because if it had gone all the way through and busted through my collarbone, I would have bled to death.
Julie Rakestraw had been hit by a 3-foot piece of wood that had penetrated 20 feet into the center of her house. But timbers like these weren't the only type of missile flying around that day.
Well, the most common injury we saw in this tornado was just a shrapnel injury, almost like a blast type injury. The sheer wind force generates so much energy that straw goes through trees.
In tornadoes, everyday objects that we take for granted become killers. At the National Severe Storms Laboratory in Norman, Oklahoma, meteorologist Harold Brooks studies tornadoes and how they kill.
The biggest thing that kills most people in tornadoes is blunt force trauma, getting hit by the debris. Even ordinary objects flying at 150 or 200 miles an hour become deadly missiles if you're hit by them.
At 250 miles per hour, the wind will propel a 15-pound piece of debris, the weight of an average Thanksgiving turkey, at about 100 miles per hour.
People who survive tornadoes frequently get very, very devastating injuries to them. They may lose fingers, ears, lots of really awful soft tissue injuries and the kinds of things that take years to recover from fully.
Julie Rakestraw isn't going to be caught out twice. When she rebuilt her house, she made sure it included a tornado shelter.
This is our underground storm shelter. We don't have to worry about getting hit in the head anymore. I have, first aid kits, water, and just in case that we're going to be down there for a little bit.
Storm shelters probably save the lives of hundreds of people each year, but many people don't have them. Tornadoes kill about 3 times as many people as hurricanes. This is the nation's most deadly wind. We've seen that the winds inside tornadoes are much faster than the winds inside hurricanes. This should make them more destructive. But which wind actually causes the most damage? When tornadoes hit cities, the damage they do is phenomenal. But as this bird's eye view of a tornado path shows, the width of the destruction is limited. In contrast, hurricanes are vast, typically 300 miles across. This sheer size makes them much more devastating. While tornadoes are the high-speed drills of the weather world, hurricanes are the power sweepers. They spread their destruction far and wide, and the power within them is extraordinary. A moderately sized hurricane can release as much energy in a day as 400 hydrogen bombs. Naked Science wants to find out if there is anything we can do to prevent so much damage when the next hurricane strikes. Hurricanes. Their winds may be only around half the speed of those in tornadoes, but the destruction they cause is on a much, much bigger scale. Here at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, meteorologists forecast when and where hurricanes will strike. The advantage hurricane forecasters have over their tornado colleagues is that they have longer warning times. And each year, it seems the forecasts get better. A fact that Florida International University's Professor Hugh Willoughby is proud of.
We've been able to reduce the risk to life. The chances of dying in a hurricane have decreased by a factor of 100 in the course of the 20th century.
The Hurricane Center's track forecast accuracy improves on average by 1 to 2% a year.
1 or 2% a year doesn't sound like much, but over 30 years it adds up.
But there's an element of hurricane forecasting that is extremely difficult. Predicting just how strong a hurricane will be when it hits land.
This sand is hitting us so hard.
The most destructive hurricane of recent years occurred in 1992. On Sunday, August 16th, satellite pictures showed a tropical depression forming in the eastern Atlantic. By the time the disturbance reached Florida, it had grown into a powerful storm and had been given a name: Andrew. But just before it hit land, the forecasters underestimated its strength. Stanley Goldenberg is a hurricane researcher. If anyone could have seen what was coming, it was him. But as Hurricane Andrew approached Miami, Goldenberg put himself and his family in just about the worst possible place.
This is our house calmly waiting for Hurricane Andrew.
His home was directly in the path of the storm and protected only by plywood shutters.
You can hear that outside.
I woke everybody up and said, well, this is the time we got to start what we call hunkering down in the hallway. And we got some mattresses and sheets to protect against flying glass.
Winds outside, I think, are at least 100, 110 miles an hour or more. Aaron, are you okay? And there's the cat.
Goldenberg relied on plywood and God.
Just waiting out in the hall because we lost the plywood on the front window, but we are praying God will cover that.
When the eye wall hit, it was like someone took a gear on a gearbox and just revved it right up.
Lord, we just thank you. We ask your protection. In Jesus' name, amen.
Explosive smash when that window went, and then blew out the sliding glass door in the back. So we had a hurricane just roaring not too many feet from us through the house. And then at a certain point, my brother-in-law said, the roof is gone. Indeed, the roof had lifted off in one piece and flew over the fence and smashed into the neighbor's house. The living room kitchen wall fell on us. It propped itself up by the refrigerator by about 1 foot, so it made like a little hiding place for us. But it's sad to say, the stove was on my back. It felt like my knees were being crushed. And we were just praying, crying out to God, just hoping for this thing to let up.
Goldenberg and his family survived. It was only when daylight arrived that he realized the full scale of the damage.
You can now see, this is the wall. Fell on top of us. Stove down there, cabinets. These shutters survived the storm. Every window covered with this type of shutter survived. But our house, which had wood shutters, the roof lifted off. The roof lifted off.
Hurricane Andrew devastated a total of over 1,000 square miles of land.
Andrew hit the least populated section of Miami, of Dade County. If it had been just 20 miles to the north, all the statistics would have been almost tripled.
Andrew left around 160,000 residents homeless and killed 23 people. It taught scientists never to underestimate the power and unpredictability of wind.
All in all, it went from a minimal tropical storm to a Category 4, then Category 5 hurricane in just about 36 hours. Tremendous intensification, which is the hardest thing for us to forecast, is these rapid intensification.
Hurricane Andrew caused more than 20 times as much damage as the United States' worst tornado. When averages are taken into consideration, year after year, hurricanes cause nearly 5 times as much damage as tornadoes. But do hurricanes have to cause so much devastation? Is there any way we can prevent the wind being so destructive? We know that the damage caused by a hurricane goes up dramatically with wind speed. In some conditions, reducing the wind speed by just 10% can reduce the damage by 1/4. The powerhouse of hurricanes is the moisture within them. As water vapor condenses, it releases enormous quantities of heat that helps to drive the storm. Remove some of the moisture, and in theory, you weaken the storm. That's exactly what scientists tried to do in the 1960s.
Project Storm Fury assembles a team of highly trained scientists and technicians.
In 1961, the U.S. government funded Project Storm Fury. The plan was to seed hurricane clouds with silver iodide particles. These would convert supercooled water in the clouds into rain and cause the eye wall, the part of the hurricane with the fastest winds, to break down. Tests on Hurricane Debbie in 1969 appeared to succeed in reducing wind speeds by an average of 25%. But the subsequent research revealed that most of this dramatic reduction probably wasn't caused by the seeding, but by a natural storm cycle, and would have happened anyway. After more than 2 decades, Project Storm Fury was finally abandoned. In Palm Beach, Florida, businessman Peter Cordani believes he can succeed where Storm Fury failed. He has created an absorbent powder that he says will one day reduce the power of hurricanes.
It's a polymer-based product. It has the capability to absorb 2,000 times its own weight instantly. So you'll see when I dump it in the water here, it will absorb all that moisture instantly. Just a little bit. You can see how it's absorbing it right now. So our whole theory is if we can absorb the moisture, it will take the devastating punch out of the storm.
In 2001, Peter Cordani's team tested the powder on a storm cloud.
This thing was building, it was abrupt, and it was perfect for our test. And we released the load on it. It absorbed all the moisture and dropped that storm out of the atmosphere instantly and forced it to the ocean. It was like magic. It was on the radar, it was gone off the radar.
Independent observers confirmed that the cloud disappeared. But wiping out a cloud doesn't mean the powder can weaken a hurricane. The scale of the problem is so much greater. Even though Cordani's work continues, weather experts doubt the likelihood of success. Scientists believe that the best way to prevent hurricane damage is to improve building design and make more accurate forecasts so that areas in danger can be evacuated. As slow-moving events that build up gradually over sea, hurricanes are spotted several days before they hit land, and there is usually plenty of time to give people warning. By moving people away from the danger zone, many lives are saved. In the United States, only about 20 people are killed each year. So far, the forecasters are winning the war against hurricanes. But things may be about to change. When Hurricane Charlie hit Florida in August 2004, it seemed forecasters were on top of it. The National Hurricane Center issued a warning for most of the West Coast. 1.5 million people evacuated the area. Others took shelter. But despite the warnings, more than 25 people lost their lives. Charlie was a Category 4 hurricane, a whole category below Andrew, but it killed more people. So what went wrong? Brian Norcross has been predicting the weather in Miami for 20 years. He's seen hurricanes come and go, and he believes there's an extra dimension that hasn't been factored in.
I think we're losing the hurricane battle overall. The amount of building that's right at the coastline, and therefore the number of people that are piled at the coast, is exceeding our ability to warn. And even if we could warn perfectly, a certain percentage of people are not going to react until the last minute anyway.
Since the 1950s, the number of people living on the East Coast of the United States has almost doubled. And however strong the warnings, there will always be some who won't leave until the last moment.
So we know that a significant number of people will be left in harm's way when a hurricane comes.
Massive, carpet-bombing hurricanes and violent surgical strike tornadoes are among the most terrifying forces on Earth. The intense speed of the air in a tornado's towering vortex makes it the deadliest of all winds, and the awesome size of a hurricane ensures it is the most destructive. Science has sought to understand and protect us from these whirling monsters. Improved forecasts and longer warning times will continue to save lives, but they will probably never be 100% accurate. When angry skies strike, the only thing to do is get out of the way.